Welcome, folks, to your exclusive tour of the underworld. And trust me, it's gonna be one hell of a ride. Hello, folks, I'm the Ghost with Knife, and welcome back to Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, and welcome to the Fusion and Link Festival. If you're not aware, this is basically a festival that likes to showcase Fusion decks and Link decks. And in the festival, they decided to give us some loaners, and two of the loaners are really interesting. One's Memento, which is a newer deck, and the other is Unchained. The reason this is interesting is because the Unchained cards actually got a bunch of new support in the last selection packs. And even though there's a loaner for this deck, I figured, you know what? I want to try my own hand at a Unchained deck, and also I just wanted a chance to try out some of the new support cards and some of the new combos, because with this new support, the Unchained deck has changed rather drastically. It includes cards like Tour Guide of the Underworld, which is now probably one of our best starters in the deck. So without further ado, let's get right into this deck list, and let's go ahead and showcase some of the newer cards. The three new cards from the last selection pack are Sharvara here, Shiyama, and the Lord of Yama. These are all really powerful monsters. Sharvara helps us set more traps, which helps us extend, and it can also act as a way to quick effect pop our stuff so we can try to get value out of that. Shiyama is a recursion card mostly that can pop spells and traps on our turn, but that's about it. And Yama is just a really powerful extender, and now our best thing to start our Link combo into. Now, one sad thing about this event is that it excludes our ability to use XYZ monsters, and there's a few DDD XYZ monsters that are really powerful and really help Unchained break the boundaries that they had in the past and give them a lot of interaction, make them, in my opinion, one of the most solid decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! Currently. Again, we don't get access to those cards, so instead I've decided to fill out the deck with just some decent XYZ monsters. Relinquished Anima because we're using Veiler and we can theoretically use Veiler to grab that. Access Code Talker, Underworld Goddess, Dark. The extra deck is going to change a little bit throughout the event because I actually recorded this entire session 3 times. I had one original session that had none of the audio recorded because I'm dumb. Then the second session I had most of the audio for the games, and just the last 2 did not get any audio whatsoever, and I was having some recording issues. So this is my third crack at the deck. So if my extra deck looks a little bit different or weird, I apologize if it's inconsistent. Most of the stuff we replace the XYZ monsters with does not matter. Anyways, so the idea of this deck is, like we did in the past, to destroy our own cards to generate value, to use special summoning, to link chain to get into our blue dog, which can link off with our opponent's monster, and then we use our red dog to link off with our opponent's monster to get into our boss monster, the Unchained Abomination. It's a really fun deck, and in the past, before the support, I really enjoyed this deck. So let's see how this deck does without its DDD support, and just with the new cards in general in an event that I think it can do pretty well in. Without further ado, let's get into those games. Right, getting into our first game, let's do a little bit of housekeeping first. I know some people are going to go, Ghost, why is your name Buddy Woman? Simple. I lost a bet with Nell, and now I have to use this Melfi rabbit-looking icon and a bunny-related username for a while. Don't worry about it. Anyways, so we're going to go into our first big play with this deck, which is our new starter with the Tour Guide of the Underworld. Tour Guide of the Underworld wants us to grab Fiendish Rhino Warrior, so that way we can go straight into Yama. Tour Guide into Rhino Warrior is essentially one of our best starters in the deck now, because just we have access to that. And Fiendish Rhino Warrior allows us to chain block as we use Yama's effect here, which is going to allow us to grab another Unchained monster from the deck to the hand. So we're going to use the Fiendish Rhino Warrior to send Shiyama to the graveyard. We're going to grab Aruha with Yama. We're going to pop our Prison with Aruha to special summon Aruha, which is going to grab a Sharvara, which is going to let us use Yama and the Red Dog to link summon into the Unchained Soul of Rage. Now from this position, if you had the XYZ stuff, you could use Shiyama, pop Aruha, and use Sharvara to pop, I don't know, maybe a triple Tactics Thrust if I said it. And then from this position, I could have 2 level 6 monsters, and I could go into Caesar, which is 2 negates and a suck bare minimum. But I don't have access to that because we don't have access to XYZ stuff. My opponent is going to set 5 here, on their turn. I don't know what kind of nonsense they've got going on, but I'm like, no. One of these is going away, so I'm going to use the escape, pop the Aruha, pop the card right in front of me, and it's a Curse of Darkness. It looks like we're playing some sort of burn deck, I think. Anyways, we're going to use Aruha and the Yama Engraved to special summon 2 monsters while none of their traps are active. We're going to grab back Shiyama, grab the Sarama, which Sarama is going to allow us to set up traps and try to keep the grind game going. We're drawn to an imperm here, so I'm going to go ahead and activate Sarama, put the escape. We're going to go ahead and pop the escape so we can get another summon. We're going to summon Sharvara. My opponent is going to bottomless our Sharvara, which is pretty disgusting because it's going to get banished, meaning I can no longer recur it. So I'm like, fine, I'll use the Sharvara in hand to go ahead and protect the one on field. And then my opponent plays Gravedigger's Trap Hole. What can I say? I got pwned by my own Trap Tricks tech. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what I need to do here. I got wrecked. Anyways, I'm going to use Shiyama to pop Sarama to pop their other back row, which is a Magic Cylinder. My opponent is on some very silly nonsense. I'm going to use the Abominable Unchained Soul after special summoning it to get rid of a card from hand, which is going to be Thrust, to get rid of their other trap, which is, I believe, Fire Darts. We're going to go into Red Dog here because that's basically what I can do from this position. Yeah, it was Fire Darts. This is definitely some sort of nasty burn deck. I'm going to set an Imperm. I'm going to immediately use it, just resummon the Shiyama. And we're not going to go for lethal here, but we're just going to try to do some damage. My opponent summons a Salamangreat Pero, which is going to protect their life points just a little bit more, enough to be annoying. And then I'm like, forget it. Whatever, we're fine. We're going to pass. What are they going to do? They've got one card, and they play Ukasi. So confirming my opponent is on some burn deck. From here, I'm like, forget it. I'm going to destroy my big soul, which is going to allow us to special summon Sharvara and bring back the soul just in case they have some weird nonsense I don't know about that I can pop during the end phase. Was the idea of the play. We grab a Wailing, but I'm like, no, we're not done. We're not done. We have to end this in style. Use Red Dog and Ash Blossom to summon Muckraker from the Underworld. Go ahead and set a trap, which is going to be the other chamber. Going to use Muckraker's effect, get rid of Wailing to resummon the tour guide that started it all. And I'm going to beat them with tour guide and Muckraker and then show them who let the dogs out. It was me. Next game. Alright, going on to our next game. We're going second this time. And our hand is kind of rough for going second. The Imperm is really the only thing we can do here. My opponent is going to show us that they're on Tri-Brigade, which is not a deck I see too often, but for the length of it, should be pretty popular. My opponent is going to use their nonsense to go ahead and put stuff in the graveyard, so they can link from the graveyard. You've seen Tri-Brigade before. They do some silly nonsense. While they try to link with Kid, I'm going to go ahead and Imperm it here to just stop their combo dead in the water. It's like, no, I don't want you link summoning anymore. You've had enough fun. And from there, my opponent is going to end their turn and pass. So, from here, we've got a pretty nice hand. We do have a Tour Guide and an A-Bomb's Prison. Tour Guide is a really good way of trying to fight through our opponent's interaction. So what we're going to do is we're going to go Tour Guide. I should have probably gone Prison first to try to bait out an Ash or something, but my opponent has the failure for Tour Guide, and that kind of stops that dead in the water. And I'm like, well, cool. Okay. I will try to Prison. And we do actually successfully Prison into Aruha, which lets us set the trap, which lets us grab Aruha, which is going to let us special summon a monster from the deck. We're going to special summon Sharvara, use the Sharvara from deck, because having the one in hand is just, in my opinion, more valuable. Resummon the Yama. Yama's going to grab us an Unchained monster from the deck. We're going to go ahead and set the, I believe Escape is what we set here, because I was paying attention for this game and not half asleep. We're going to grab Sharvara here, which is just another way to extend our plays. We're going to destroy the other trap, summon the Sharvara. Going to go ahead and special summon the Sarama. We're going to set the Escape, get rid of the Aruha. Aruha is going to special summon us another monster. Again, because we don't have access to the rank 6s, we're just going to go into the Abominable Unchained Soul, because it's a pretty decent card in this position. And I am going to Red Dog here. The main idea behind this is that I just want Yama in the grave, and I also want their monster off the board so I can try to... I mean, like, they have a material for me to use, so why not go ahead and use it to make my big boss monster? Link off their monster into the Unchained Abomination. Big Dog is back. Our opponent does get a little bit of nonsense with the Tri-Brigade monster since something went to the graveyard. They're going to go ahead and get a Fractal back in hand. It's whatever, who cares? We're going to go ahead and go in for 6,000 and try to pwn our opponent from here. So we do have a pop with the Escape with Sarama, which is pretty powerful. And once we pop from there, we can pop with the Unchained Abomination. And we can also pop the Unchained Abominable Soul with Sharvara to get another pop at the end of the turn. So we basically have 3 destruction effects to deal with our opponent's nonsense. Our opponent is going to start doing their Tri-Brigade stuff, yada yada yada. They're going to go into Karas. We've seen this before. Yep. Cool deck. And from here, I'm just going to go ahead and try to get rid of their material before they can try to start link summoning monsters. I'm like, dude, just go ahead and pop that. And then, because I'm half asleep, I do something kind of dumb. I activate A-Bomb, not paying attention, and destroy my own monster. So now I've lost one of my pops, and oh yeah, my Sarama got gammoned. So I've lost a lot of my interaction basically because I was dumb. And now my opponent is going to summon Sprite Elf, which is pretty backbreaking. They go into Kit, and then they're going to Link Summon into Shudike. And they're going to banish my Abomination, and then... Wait, what? Why didn't you just attack with Shudike? Why didn't... What? Why didn't we just go for the damage? I don't know. My opponent is going to link off Shudike so they can, I guess, extend? I don't really know why. They go into Fairtay? Okay. They add Rescue Cat. Normal Rescue Cat. Extend into Cerebral and Karas. I am very confused of my opponent. Okay, that's our end board instead. We did not end on Shudai. We ended on this. And I don't know what my opponent was going for with their end board, but they do have 2 cards they're protecting with Sprite Elf, which makes me want to pop this, but I think to myself, wait a minute. When Abominable Unchained Soul is special summoned, I'm going to discard a card, and I can pop whatever I want. As tempting as the Elf is, this could be Revolution, and Revolution allows them to link summon on my turn and banish my stuff. So at the last second, I summon my Abominable Unchained Soul, pop their back row, and it is indeed their Revolt, which lets us set our trap, which lets us get our grind game on, and with Tour Guide, we just have access to a bunch of other nonsense. My opponent just got wrecked. Alright, getting into our next game, we're going first this time with, oh god. Don't look at my hand. Just go away. Go away, Pingu. You don't see nothing, okay? I mean, it does let us hide what we're doing from our opponent as they go into the new Mementos, which lets them summon a 5,000 attack and defense monster that can set up 5 negates. The one thing I know about this deck, other than that it's really annoying to understand, is that it's really weak to Ash. So I'm just going to Ash this card, because I believe this helps them set up their graveyard so that way they can go into their big boss monster and do their nonsense. And I'm like, you know what? No, I'm good. Don't want to deal with it. They're going to summon the Anguish, which wraps in Dark Blade. They're going to link off both of their monsters just to get some of their named memento cards into the graveyard. They're going to go into Phoenix, which my opponent doesn't know what I have, so them going into Phoenix is not the worst thing in the world. Now they know we're Unchained, and that was a terrible thing to do. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of Thrust here to just go ahead and pop their Phoenix. I've got no real reason not to. I don't want them to use it as link material. I want to stall them as much as possible. We're going to use Prison to grab Aruha. Aruha pops the trap, which lets us special summon. I believe I grab Sharvara here, which is the right play. We're going to link off both of them into the new monster, which is just, honestly, the star of the show. Unchained Soul Lord of Yama. Yama activate, Sharama activate. They're going to Imperm Yama, which is pretty rough. That's kind of hard to come back from because we really need that as an extender, but I'm going to go ahead and set the trap. I'm like, alright, whatever. and go in for 5,000 damage, because that seems like a reasonable thing to do from this position. Is just take as much damage as I can. And then at the end of this, I'm like, alright, what can I do here that would work? I'm going to go into Muckraker with Yama and the other monster. We're going to use Muckraker to discard Shiyama, bring back Aruha. We're going to use Shiyama to destroy Aruha, special summon itself back. I'm going to go ahead and use Aruha's effect special summon a monster. Then we're going to use Yama to get another special summon off. Just try to do as much as I can to put as much on this board as possible. And from here, I believe I go into Blue Dog here, the Unchained Soul of Rage, yes. So from this position, I have a little bit of protection for my Unchained Soul of Rage if they don't go into a monster. I have a pop with Sarama, which gives me another special summon, and we have the ability to suck up their cards and use it as a link, which in my opinion is a pretty solid way to end the board. We got as much damage off as possible, and we do have something pretty nasty. My opponent is going to summon Tatsu. I'm going to escape to destroy Sarama. They're going to use their Slash card to destroy something. And, oh, they're going to get rid of that. I'm like, alright, cool. I'm just going to use my Rage now. Wait, no, they're going to destroy my Unchained Soul of Rage with their trap. For this position, I'm like, no. I just need to go ahead and use this as a pop. Sorry about that. I'm going to go ahead and use the Unchained Soul of Rage, get my link off. And then from here, my opponent is going to kind of spin their wheels. They're going to go into Tatsu, but they cannot special summon Tatsu because they've already done it once this turn. They're going to use Anguish to get back Keymace, destroy Keymace, get their Bone Party, which is a very funny card name. Pop some more cards, get the Goblin out. They're basically just trying to fill their graveyard so that they can special summon their new boss monster, which I thought could only special summon from the hand, but this is modern Yu-Gi-Oh! That kind of restriction is nonsense and doesn't exist. And my opponent, with their big boss monster in graveyard, returns 5 different named monsters to the deck, and they summon the Combined Creation, which is pretty rough. And if that trap is the thing that lets them have 5 negates, I'm dead. So they're going to destroy the Muckraker because they kind of have to from this position, because they can't attack all my monsters. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try and go ahead and scoop up their Combined Creation. And I'm like, oh, Imperm. So I don't really have an answer to this. So how do I get out of this? Wait a minute. Did my opponent just activate a monster effect to special summon a monster? That's... Buddy, what are you doing? That lets me use my triple tactics talent. So they're going to use their Keymace to take my Sarama, which I don't know why they did that. I guess that's the only thing they could target. I'm going to... Whoa! Take their creation, link it off anyways. Get out of here, you stupid loser. Which activates my ability to summon the Unchained Abomination. And from here, I don't know if my opponent made a misplay or what, but they activate the trap. Now, the trap will destroy one of their monsters, but it only destroys one of my cards if they have the Combined Creation. I don't know how they destroyed a card with it before? Because they didn't have Creation out? I don't know. I don't know if there's like a glitch with this card, whatever. But this allows them to pop one of their cards and not mine, which allows my Abomination to pop their other card. And then I'm going to pop my Sarama, special summon a monster, and then I'm going to misclick and destroy my own Unchained Abomination, because I'm dumb and bad at this game. From here, I can't summon the one thing that would win the game, so I'm like, forget it. Aruha attack. And after a very dumb misclick, I'm not in a great position. My opponent sets 1. Is it enough to keep the game going, or did I come out by the skin of my teeth? You're darn right I did. And this is why you don't play Yu-Gi-Oh! Half asleep at 3 in the morning. Because otherwise, you're going to make dumb misclicks and almost lose. Alright, going into our next game, our opponent is going first with the very sick Volcano board and some really weird sleeves. I don't know what that's supposed to be, but we don't have a great hand, and my opponent starts with Chamber Dragon Maid. And I'm like, wait a minute, no, you can't do that, that's illegal. They're going to bounce the Chamber Dragon Maid for the Laundry. Going to go ahead and mill a Super Poly, which is terrifying, and 2 of the other boss monsters that they actually want to summon. They're going to change over into House Dragon Maid, which is pretty disgusting and hard to deal with. It's not the big boss monster Shio, So it's not absolutely unbearable, but whatever. We're gonna go ahead, use a Ruha to get rid of our trap as our 2-card starter, grab Sharvara, grab Yama. You've seen this before on this video. I'm gonna go ahead and set some traps, grab some cards, turn off my alarm. And then from there, we're gonna grab Blue Dog. Now, I believe in my half-asleep stupor, I misclicked and I thought I could send this to the graveyard with Yama. I must have confused Rhino Warrior's effect with Yama's effect, and now I have a Yama in hand, and I'm like, oh. Well, that was dumb. Try to make the most of it. Gonna go ahead and reset the escape, gonna destroy the chamber, which is gonna allow me to special summon a monster, which grabs a Sharvara, which lets us do a little bit more extension here. I'm gonna go into Blue Dog because I'm like, forget it, whatever. I'm gonna Blue Dog, and on their turn, I've got to pop with this Yama, and I can scoop up their house with Soul of Rage. My opponent is going to Feather Duster, which I think is a terrible idea against Unchained, and I'm just going to, in response, use Blue Dog, get my Red Dog. There is nothing wrong with this play, as my opponent is going to Feather Duster, which just lets me special summon cards. And from here, I'm going to do something kind of weird looking. I'm going to grab the Unchained Soul. Because I've grabbed Siyama, which was a huge misplay, what I need to do is get this thing in the graveyard so I can special summon it and use it as an extender. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Unchained Soul to pop Siyama, and I'm also going to pop Yama, which is going to give me another form of extension. I'm going to go ahead and effect Veil of this Chamber Dragon Maid. No, you do not get more cards you can summon. Also, if they try to activate this thing in battle phase, it's not going to work because it's been negated, which they do try to do because they weren't thinking. From here, my opponent is going to bounce the Chamber Dragon Maid, I guess, to protect it. With Changeover, they're going to set a card and pass. I'm like, can I kill from this turn? I'm going to go ahead and use Harpy's Feather Duster of my own, which is much better on my hands as they have Dragon Carnation. Terrifying. We're going to play the Rikea, use Rikea to special summon Sharvara, and from here we just have enough damage, and I'm like, yeah, I don't need to keep going. I have over 8,000. My opponent also realizes, and they're like, alright, I'm out. You got me. Dogs beat dragons every day of the week. Alright, we're going first this time around with kind of a weird hand, but it's okay. We're going to make it work. I'm going to set the trap, use a Ruha, special summon some nonsense. You know, we're doing funny Unchained stuff. Go into Sharvara, which is a great way of extending by getting us our traps. Go into Yama. Now we're going to go ahead and add an Unchained monster from the deck to the hand. We're going to use Sharvara to set a trap, which I believe we grab Escape. Yeah, I do grab Escape, which is a mistake. I should have grabbed Chamber so I could use it for extension. But from this position, I'm like, no, I got a better idea. We're going to grab Sarama. And what I'm going to do from this position is kind of psychotic. I'm going to normal summon Fiendish Rhino Warrior, which normally is bad, but because I've rigged on it and I want to get Shiyama in the grave, I'm like, forget it. I'll normal summon it, and then I'll link them off. Now I have a Yama in grave that I can use. I've got a Blue Dog, and I'm going to get Shiyama in graveyard. So get pwned. I'm going to set the Dark Roller, use it to activate Shiyama, to go ahead and pop a destruction effect, which then lets me pop Yama, and now I have a suck, and I have at least one destruction effect. My opponent is on Dark Worlds. They go ahead and use Dark Corridor, and I'm like, no. I don't want you doing any of that nonsense. They're gonna go ahead and activate Dark World Archives. They could have tried to discard some of the Dark World stuff from this position. I am terrified of them discarding, because that's how the pain train begins, and I'm like, cool. You got a discard deck, I got a destroy deck, it'll be very funny. I'm gonna use Sarama to bring back Rikea. After my trap destroys their spell, we're gonna special summon Sarama, bring back the trap. Gonna go ahead and pop the Rikea here. I want the trap on board in case I really need it. We're gonna special summon the Abominable Unchained Soul to just give us pressure on board. Use Rikea to bring back Sharvara. I'm going to get rid of Sarama to get rid of their back row, which is some form of negation. I don't know if there's a reason they didn't activate it, but yeah, they just didn't activate it. We're going to go into the Unchained Abomination, which is great in the grind game. We're going to use our Sharvara. Sorry about that. set the trap, and my opponent has Morphing Jar, which is absolutely abysmal. That's really, really bad, because it means they get their discards for their Dark World nonsense. So they're going to go ahead and get 2 procs of their Dark World nonsense, grab Ascension, and I don't know the Dark World matchup that well. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to use A-Bomb to destroy their cards. They're going to use their trap to protect their beige, which protects their life points a little bit longer, and I'm not going to lie, I'm scared from this position. Now, the idea behind setting this other chamber is I can use Sharvara to pop it, which gives me a special summon, which hopefully can give me some more nonsense if I really need it. But we have a few pops, we have a few ways to interact with our opponent as our opponent goes into Grapha, the Dragon Overlord. Now, this thing's pretty nasty because when I activate a monster effect or normal spell trap, as long as they have cards in hand, they can activate it and turn the effect into your opponent discards 1 card, which is terrifyingly good and just basically negates my card without negating it. So they're going to use Grapha here to try to pop my trap. I'm like, alright, cool, I'm just going to go ahead and activate it. I was trying to bait them into getting rid of their negate with Grapha. So since that didn't work, I'm like, fine. I'm going to use the escape and go ahead and pop it on there. And from this position, I'm like, alright, this is going to be cool. Because what's going to happen is they're going to use Grapha to essentially negate my escape, and I'm going to use Effect Veiler on top of Grapha, so I'm going to negate their negate and then pop their big boss monster card. Which ends the chain. Now they do get to grab back their other regular Grapha, and I do get to grab back my soul, which I'm going to be using to try to get rid of their materials as much as possible. So we did lose a little bit of interaction here. It's fine. We're going to use the Ruha's effect, special summon a monster. We're going to be special summoning Sarama. And from here, they're going to activate some nonsense. I'm going to activate my blue dog kind of early. Again, I want to burn through their resources as much as possible, and I thought Grapha was once a turn. Turns out it wasn't. I don't think so, at least. Anyways, we're just going to go straight into red dog. There's no reason not to. I don't think. Leave a comment below if I severely misplayed this Dark World game. I don't know. My opponent discards their hand for Fabled Raven, which is pretty awful. My opponent is going to destroy a card, bring back beige. A card was destroyed, so I'm like, forget it. I'm going to go ahead and destroy their Fabled Raven. I need to stop them as much as possible. I'm kind of panicking in this position. Again, I don't know the matchup. And then they special summon Grapha, and I'm like, oh, great. So they use their Ascension. They're going to discard a card. They're going to discard for beige, which they're going to bounce back to their hand. And apparently Grapha's special summon is not once per turn. So now I'm staring down 2 really powerful Graphas, and my opponent sets a card, but I think my opponent scooped because they thought they weren't going to win the grind game. I did have a pretty decent hand to try to combo off and finish off my opponent, but I think stopping the Overdragon and I guess Raven was just enough that my opponent was like, look, I don't want to play this anymore. You got me. Here we are for our last game, getting in it here with another Unchained hand, and this hand kind of sucks. Well, at least I thought it did, because I saw a Tour Guide and Rhino in hand, and I was like, ah, this is a brick. But you'll see something that I learned in the middle of this game about Tour Guide in just a second. My opponent is going first. They choose to just hard pass. I'm not quite sure why at this point in time they decided to do that, so I'm like, okay, I'm going to fish out any Ash Blossom. I did not see any Ash Blossom at this point, so I'm like, cool, I'm just going to go ahead and Tour Guide, and they Imperm instead to stop my combo. So in order to protect my combo, I'm going to go ahead and use the Unchained Shoal of Sharvara. Sharvara's going to pop Tour Guide, which allows me to still get Tour Guide's effect, which allows me to summon the Rhino Warrior from hand. That's right, Tour Guide can summon from a hand or deck. I wasn't aware of this at all. And now I have both of the link materials I need for Yama. We're going to go straight into Yama here. And from here, I'm just going to kind of go ahead and set up a nice, pretty board. We're going to use Phoenix Rhino Warrior, put Shiyama in the graveyard. Shavara is going to go ahead and get us, I believe, the chamber? Yeah, the Abominable Chamber. Rhino put Shiyama in the grave. And Yama's going to draw us into another Sharvara because I already have an Aruha. We're going to use Aruha to pop the chamber. You've seen this before. It's just typical Unchained stuff. Now we're going to go to Sarama. We're going to set the chamber, pop the Aruha, and from here I'm going to summon the Abominable Unchained Soul. And then I'm going to go into Blue Dog. And then I'm going to set 2 more and pass. And even though I don't have the XYZ stuff, I'm still pretty happy with this board. This is a phenomenal board. I've got the ability to special summon if I really need be. I've got a negate, I've got a suck, and I've got a pop. And if I pop the Abominable Unchained Soul, at the end of the turn, my opponent gets another pop. But then I realize, oh wait, we're on turn 2. I can freely swing into my opponent. So that's what I go ahead and do. Gonna go ahead and get in there for 4,800. My opponent is also on Unchained, and I'm about to show you guys a masterclass in how the Unchained matchup works. So there's a lot of points in which I could have interacted with my opponent, but I want to be very careful. What I'm trying to do is stop their one chance to either summon a monster from the deck or to get rid of one of my key pieces of interaction. So my opponent is going to play the Abominable Unchained Soul. They're going to summon Shiyama from the deck. They're going to try to activate the Abominable Unchained Soul, and I'm going to imperm this card. Now, this play doesn't seem that big, but basically this prevents them from getting rid of any of my interactive pieces so that I can still control the pace of this game on my turn. So my opponent is going to get impermed. Yeah, you may have tour guided me, but yeah, we don't care. And from here, because they went in and tried to end the main phase, I'm just going to go ahead and use Blue Dog to take their soul. Summon my Red Dog, but that's just the easiest thing in the world to do. And from here, my opponent's like, oh, okay, well, we'll try to get rid of one of your traps. They get rid of my chamber, not knowing about the escape on the other side. I guess they're just like, forget it. I'm just going to go ahead and give them the special summon. It doesn't really do that much. So we're going to get Sharvara from the deck. I'm just trying to give my opponent big beefy things to deal with. They set the Wailing, and for some reason they flip it face up. They can't link summon from this position, so I'm not quite sure why they did this. I think the idea is that maybe they could have, and if they did that, they could start popping my cards. So I'm like, when I saw it go face up, I'm like, I have literally no reason to not do this. I can pop the Abominable Unchained Soul, and then on the end phase, I can pop another card by getting rid of the card in hand. So I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of Wailing, get rid of that nonsense. My opponent does happen to be able to summon another Unchained Soul of Chiyama. I'm not sure, again, why they didn't just use this to pop their back row and get another special summon, but it doesn't matter. From here, I'm going to set up a nice, powerful board to just clean my opponent out of the game. And from here, my opponent scoops it up. And that is a masterclass in the Unchained mirror matchup. And that's going to be our final game, so let's go ahead and get straight to the wrap-up. And with those games, that will conclude our time with the Unchained deck in the Fusion and Link Festival. My thoughts on the new Unchained support: I do really like these new cards. I think Lord of Yama, Sharvara, and Shiyama are all really interesting cards. But I do think without the DDD support, this deck does kind of suffer from just a lack of things to do. Without the DDD stuff, it is essentially just a Link deck that's going to Link climb into like 1 or 2 monsters and kind of spin its wheels for 5 or 10 minutes. With the Link support, though, you do get access to some very, very powerful interruptions, which really helps with the grind game, which is this game's end goal, is to grind your opponent to dust. Anyways, thank you for tuning in. Don't worry, we will get a chance to see the full-powered Unchained deck in action, because I will be returning to this deck and trying to ladder with it very, very soon. Until then, folks, I have been the Ghost with Knife. Thank you for tuning in. Now get the hell out of here.